this is Deb. Welcome to You Are a Prototype. In this episode, Adel shares with us how he has relied on a strong sense of curiosity to meet his people in multiple communities, all related to his passion for various forms of art. A very challenging task in a city where people come and go all the time.
Today, we're hosting Adele. Adele is a free spirit surrounded by nomadic transient souls. By day, he gets paid to ask questions as a recruiter for the corporate world. By night, he dons several hats, including being a poet, writer, MC, improv artist, and musician. He also exhibits great interest in art, philosophy, philanthropy, and is also a die-hard Cookie Monster fan. Welcome, Adele, to You Are a Prototype.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Deb, and great to great to just be here. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. And I just want to tell everyone how we met and why you're here today. I met Adele 2 years ago in an improv workshop, so improv theater workshop. And didn't know each other. We went into this free workshop in Dubai, and I felt an energy around Adele that wanted me to know more. And I just moved after this workshop. I moved really not long after this workshop, and we didn't really have the chance to connect. So I thought today would be a great opportunity, selfishly, to know more about your story. So thank you for being with us. And as I start every podcast this way, the first question I ask is, Adele, who are you now?
I'll define myself as being a community champion at the minute. Aside from everything that I've done revolving around the arts, be it poetry, be it spoken word, be it with the music or improv for that matter, I believe there is a lack of a true sense of community out here on this side of the world, and everything that I've done has led me to this particular point of championing that cause and initiative and bridging the gaps that currently exist.
And who were you before?
Prior to this, I can easily and comfortably say that I was lost, and proud of the fact that I was lost. While it was scary, while it was confusing, there have been times where I felt completely alone, completely isolated, without a clue of what to do, what to really connect or resonate with. So this side of the world, the art scene, the community, the grassroots community scene is still quite young, and there isn't much being done. You know, there are a lot of creatives, there's a lot of potential. So I was lost, I was immersed in that, and one thing leads to another, and here we are.
So then what happened from where you were before and where you are now? Made you decide to move into that direction?
It's a genuine sense of curiosity combined with restlessness. Aside from the day job that I had, I really felt that I should be pushing myself a lot more. And my curiosity allowed me to meet and connect with very interesting souls, people that were setting up different platforms on different art fronts. So one good example is Rooftop Rhythms that started quite a few years ago. So this was a poetry event that I attended in Abu Dhabi, and it allowed me to explore the world of spoken word and made me a poet. So that was one front of things. Another great thing that happened is Blank Canvas. So Blank Canvas is an initiative that's based in Abu Dhabi, and my curiosity also led me there, allowed me to tap more into the arts, and they do a lot of things, a lot of support for the community members as well, be it in music, be it for poetry. They do support the arts altogether. So few initiatives like this were bubbling up within Abu Dhabi and Dubai that allowed me to really tap in and connect with other creatives. And I did feel that there's a lot more potential between all of these initiatives, and there's a bigger push that's needed to allow people to know what's happening around the city. So people do come to me and ask, hey, what's happening? What's going on? How do you end up at these events? So I feel that there should be a platform that should eventually exist that will give a proper shout out to these nonprofit communities that do it for the sake of the arts, purely out of passion. You know? So that's why I'm in the process of setting up something that will eventually link people that are genuinely interested in these um, groups and communities, as well as artists who could use a push for their art. And such a push would allow them to propel their art for people that could admire them. So I would love to be that bridge that will connect these both, and that's currently what I'm working on right now.
How did you get into that particular
What
topic?
happened? Well, for a lot of creatives, essentially, like I said earlier, they do feel lost. They do feel there's a lack of connection to this place. I mean, aside, everyone's here primarily due to their jobs, so they do leave their families, they do leave their hometowns, etc., to come here pursuing a career, which is great. But on the flip side, it comes at a cost of maybe not really be able to express who they are as an artist, or not able to connect with other creatives as well. So that's exactly what I was going through. Despite having the passion, despite nurturing the talent, I couldn't really connect with that many, or I didn't find that avenue to really express my talents, etc. So finding these communities was one part of the task, and connecting fellow creatives from one community to the other was another task of its own as well. So that genuine sense of curiosity is what really allowed me to find my people. It did take a while. It did take a lot of effort, but here we are, and I'm just truly blessed to be able to be surrounded by these people. And I can say that the the creative community scene is developing a lot more. I mean, it's in much better shape than what it was a few years ago, for that matter.
And if somebody would find themselves in the similar situation of where you were, what step would you recommend them to take to get where you are now?
I'll tell them that they need to be hopeful, and really follow that spark of curiosity that they have within themselves, to really get out there, try to find out about fellow creatives and artists, regardless of where they are on the globe. So we are truly blessed to live in times where we are interconnected, be it through social media, be it through all these apps that we use. So a good way to start would be by checking out all the events that happen, that are published on websites like Eventbrite, for instance, or Meetup. Um, some are published on Facebook as well. So these are good ways to get started. And I'm sure that once you attend these events, you'll find like-minded people, and you will be able to connect with them. Now, that's one thing. Finding it is one part of the key, but then making it happen. There are times where when you can't find it, you have to create it for yourself. So if you can find other creatives, and if you all have that burning desire to really create something meaningful and beautiful, you could also start your own initiative. So I've seen a lot of people do that. There are a lot of groups that have materialized out of nowhere just to fill that particular gap. So for instance, Blank Space is one of them, an open mic, spoken word event that happens in Dubai, Backyard Poetry in Abu Dhabi, 432 Hertz in Abu Dhabi as well, catering to musicians. So these are people who have built a scene from scratch. If you can't find it, you create it. That's another thing that I would highly recommend to people.
And in your case, you mentioned that, it wasn't easy. Could you tell us a little bit more about, you know, what was on your way and how you came over it?
Finding like-minded people is the biggest challenge. So finding people that you
How do
can,
you do it?
well, if you do follow your passion, I'm sure that your passion will ultimately attract the right kind of people towards you. Now, this has nothing to do with where you're from or what is it that you do for a living. Your passion will speak for itself. If you're a musician, you are bound to connect with musicians. If you're a poet, you are bound to connect with poets. It's a matter of getting it started. It's a matter of finding or creating that avenue, and then being able to express what is it that you have to offer. That is a key challenge, especially in this part of the world. We have come out of a lot of stigma. There was a lot of pushback in terms of events, in terms of music. limitations in terms of expressing yourself. But I believe that's all changing now, and thanks to a lot of people who have championed such initiatives, we are in much better shape. There's a lot of potential for a lot more events. Venues is another thing. So there are not many venues that are supportive. So it's hard to really find a good platform where you can express yourself and even attract the right kind of audience. Another pushback would be obviously your commercial events. Especially in this part of the world, a lot of events are commercialized and they have a lot of marketing going on. So if you are not really if you're doing this just for the sake of the arts or just following a passion as a nonprofit initiative, you will be limited in terms of promoting your event. But it's sort of like the avalanche effect. You start small, it spreads from word of mouth or from your attendees sharing about this event on social media. And eventually, once people can really recognize the value in what you have to offer, the word gets around and your event gets some more mileage on that matter. So these are just some of the challenges in terms of really getting out there and finding or creating those avenues to express yourself.
So I hear a lot of challenges, but I'm sure you also have a lot of rewards in doing the work that you do now with the community. Could you tell us more about all the good things that are coming out of it?
That's the best part. So the rewards definitely once you're on stage and if you were to present or perform something and you hear that round of applause from people that are there solely because of you, that is an exhilarating feeling. Just to have that sort of applause, just to have that sense of gratitude. And a lot of people do come up and thank you at the end of the event, telling that this is exactly what they've been looking for, this is exactly what's been missing. So it is a very genuine form of connection that you will have with an audience that's out there. It's just a matter of getting it, putting it out there, and being brave enough to actually make it happen. That's one of the strongest rewards that you can have, doing it for the people, doing it for the community, forging new friendships, bridging those gaps. It's just beautiful to be up on stage, and especially in a place like Dubai, even in Abu Dhabi for that matter. When you look at the audience, it's quite diverse. People come from different parts of the world, but what truly aligns them is their passion. So they're here for a reason. They're here to express. They're here to enjoy. And when you look at the audience itself, it's poetry or it's art in its own beautiful way. What people from different backgrounds. So that is quite fulfilling, I must say.
I almost want to come to one of these events. I wish I was not in London.
You should.
uh, and talking about these events or shows, could you take us through the progress? Like, where did you start and where are you now in terms of stage, venues, artists, audience, marketing?
For the most part, I am a participant, I'm a guest, I'm a visitor, I'm a nomad. That's how I'll put it for most of my involvement in the art scene out here. One good example would be how I started off with poetry. So I attended an event with Rooftop Rhythms, just saw what it's about. I had no idea what a spoken word event was for that matter, or I barely had any friends within the poetry circles or community. So I attended one show, loved it, signed up for the next, performed on stage, and loved the reaction, and decided, yes, this could be my thing, and started writing poetry. And 5 years on, there's no looking back. But within those 5 years, I've managed to also connect with other poets. I've managed to connect with really interesting people, made or forged some of the best friendships I've had. That's a good example in terms of poetry. In terms of music and arts, again, it's a matter of attending these events, spreading the word. It is important to spread the word, to really support your local musicians. So part of that's pretty much your responsibility as an attendee, being part of the scene, being part of the community. So these were also ways that I was able to propel some of these events. I was able to spread the word and things along those lines. Further down, I mean, aside from poetry and music, I will also say that I managed to get myself into improv and really support in terms of building an improv community in Dubai. So the improv scene in Dubai is also picking up. There are a lot of very interesting, very diverse groups that are out there. So it's a somehow I don't know if I feel that there are these magnets that exist, and maybe my like I said, my genuine sense of curiosity will allow me to attend maybe something like a workshop or a simple talk about one of these events. And next thing I will be part of it in some pivotal way or the other. So that's how it's been. It's a natural tendency to connect with people based on passion, figuring out how can we really take this to the next level, putting our heads together and swimming against the tide and actually making it happen. So, yep, improv has been one of the latest things I've done, and now eventually moving on, I will be diversifying into other projects. So, for instance, there are three key projects revolving around poetry, revolving around community, as well as something to do along the lines of a men's circle. So these are ideas that are still popping up and projects that I will be working on the other line.
I love how, it really shows the concept of prototyping. You start and you go to this event and to participate, and you're not sure yet, about what it's going to look like. You're testing yourself, you're testing the art, and you're prototyping yourself really. And then it's really interesting to see how things pick up. And if it's made to stick, it's going to stick and amplify through time. And I'd like now to talk more about what's happening in the inside, because we talked about your actions on the outside, connecting with people. And I'd love to hear more about your personal growth in that journey, and where you were, remembering where you were lost, and then you discovered these groups and started to be active part of the community. How did it change you as a person?
Great question. Wow. I think we're going to need more time for that, but I will try to keep it as precise and concise as possible. As a person, it all comes down to people, and I believe people form a community, and the kind of people that I even manage to connect with. I believe that I've heard this somewhere that you are a combination of the five people that you interact with. I think in my case, I'm a combination of the 50 people that I interact with, and there are bits and pieces that you take from each other. And like I said earlier, out here you've got a huge mix of cultures, you've got a huge mix of people from different backgrounds. There's a lot that you can learn. There's a lot that you can connect with. People come from different experiences, and due to this, we also get the best of a lot. So I do believe that it has equipped me with a lot of knowledge, with a better understanding of people, not just in terms of cultures, but also in terms of being emotionally attached or emotionally connected with them. So that's one thing that has matured within me, at least over the last few years.
We discussed about the opportunity for you to maybe share with us your art. Would you be up for it?
Absolutely. Would you like a poem?
I would love a poem. I think everyone would love a poem.
All right.
When you're ready.
Okay, great, great. So here it goes. Fact. I want you to elevate from your current situation, levitate and head to your life's next station, gravitate towards what drives you. Fuel your thoughts with your dreams, envision the end, take that step and pump up the adrenaline, and don't let those goosebumps ever be shy. Turn the page, burn the yesterdays, marry your passions, so that you actually look forward to waking up like it's Christmas every day. Breathe. Excitement. Let your hopes glide like a magic carpet into the night with the constellations as your audience, because they've all been waiting for you, for this, for everything you'll accomplish. Or else the stars wouldn't have spelled out your name all along.
Thank you so much for sharing. Could you tell us more about how this you created this piece?
I was inspired by a friend who was actually going through a hard time when I wrote this piece. And I started
It's very uplifting.
as it is. And I actually started writing a message, but then I realized that this can be a poem. And I actually dedicated this to him, who's a fellow poet as well. And that's about it. Next thing you know, I sent it to him, and it translated into a poem altogether. So yeah, I do feel that I go back to that particular emotion every time I perform this on stage. So I remember him every time I perform it, and when I'm looking at the crowd, I can see that some people really need that as well. So it is beautiful in its own way.
What if people want to know more about the community of poets and arts in Dubai? Where should they go?
I'll put it this way. I'll give a few shout outs to some of the communities out here, some of the groups. So there's Rooftop Rhythms in Abu Dhabi, Backyard Poetry in Abu Dhabi, Blank Space in Dubai. There's Dubai Poetics, also known as the Poetry Hood. Blank Canvas Community, they do art, communal art, where people get to express, share in a very fun and playful manner. 432 Hertz is an open mic that's happening in Abu Dhabi as well. So these are definitely some of the initiatives off the top of my head, but there's a lot more down the rabbit hole. So I am actually setting up a platform where people can understand more about community-based events, not-for-profit events, as well as artists. So I call it Let's Not. So that's let's.not on Instagram. So eventually I'll also be running a set of workshops, set of events down the line, which would revolve around community building and allow people to connect, share, express seamlessly based on their passions, ones that they have or ones that they would like to build upon. So that's let's.not on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Adele. It was a pleasure to hear your story and to hear how passion has really helped you not only develop your arts but also develop yourself in a elevated person, I would say. Am I correct?
I like how you put it. Thanks. Sometimes it's hard for me to accept that, but sure, I'll take that. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for being with us today. If you wish to know more about the communities that Adele mentioned, go to Instagram and look for let's.not. Let's, L-E-T-S, .not, K-N-O-T. See you next time.